lows. In other words, this high is higher than this high, is higher than this high. In an uptrend, you should be ideally trying to connect the lows. So, for example, this is a low, these are a low, this is a low here, this is a low here. For a valid trend line, it must connect 3 points. So at the beginning of 2024, we had a low in dollar versus the Japanese yen. This is a daily chart coming in around 140. And we then connected 2 points in March around 146. That made a valid trend line. Now, the beauty of trend lines is once you draw them, you can actually use them for entry points and a place to put your stops. And you will see here that the market accelerated sharply higher throughout April, but its subsequent sell-off stopped ahead of that trend line that you drew at the beginning of the year. And that would have given you a prime opportunity to add to any long positions. Remember, if you're adding to longs at this point, your stops can go below the trend line. So your risk reward here is really pretty good. And again, subsequent sell-offs have held above that trend line. And you can use that as an opportunity to again add to your positions. Now, obviously, once a trend line breaks, as in this case here, you will need to reevaluate your position. And if you are holding longs, you would have to seriously question the validity of why you are holding the long position. Because once the trend line breaks, the risk turns lower, and the chances are you are going to see at least a deep sell-off and possibly a reversal. So that is the best place to put your stops. The second point I would like to make about trend lines is the longer they are, the better they are. You need to think about them as being like fine wines. The older they are, the better they are. So, for example, in this US dollar versus Japanese yen weekly chart, we've drawn an uptrend going from 2022. Now, actually, this does connect 3 points right down here at the beginning. I could argue that that was a valid trend line at that point. But let's connect this point also here. That gives you your valid trend line. And you test it again in March 2023 and again in December of 2023. That is 5 touches at least of that trend line. It is an important trend line. It also goes back for 2 years. This trend line only goes back for 6 months. Therefore, it is of less importance than this trend line. And we would expect a break of this trend line to see the market mean revert to its longer term uptrend. And once it gets down here, you might want to consider reinstating any long positions. Again, it's a good place for entry points and putting your stop levels. The next point I want to make is about when you see a very long-term trend line break. So this is the monthly chart for the US dollar versus Japanese yen. And as you can see here, we've got a very, very long-term downtrend that was broken earlier in 2022. And the break was extremely dynamic. Now, this downtrend went from 1990. And you can see once the market actually breached this level, it triggered quite an acceleration of the up move that was already being seen. It produced quite a big rally higher, and the break was extremely dynamic. You need to know where your long-term trend lines are in markets. They are very important. That's why you have to watch your monthly charts quite closely. The last point I would like to make about trend lines is just because a trend line breaks, as in this case here, it doesn't necessarily mean reversal. It might just mean that you're going to see a correction lower and the market resume its overall up move at a slower pace. So in this example, you've seen the market rally higher for a few months, and in the end of February, you saw it sell off. But look, this low here remained above the previous low that we saw in the beginning of February. And that means the definition of an up move, which is for higher reaction highs and higher reaction lows, remains valid. So all you do at this point is redraw your uptrend. You are drawing an uptrend because you remain in an up move. Okay, those are the main points that I wanted to make about trend lines. Not only are they a good visual aid to your trading, but they do offer you not only the place to put your stops, the place of entry points for your trades, but more important than all of that is they enforce discipline. Because once your trend line breaks, as in this situation here, you have to seriously question why you are still holding long positions. You have to, it enforces discipline. It's a very good visual aid. Thank you very much.